We will now begin the anime trial. Defendant aspiring YouTube reviewer, do you admit that you are a criminal? A criminal? No. I just really want to review anime shows. Your Honor, this territory has very clearly been covered before by other anime reviewers. The defendant is overstepping her bounds. She is guilty. Heh, I'm so cool.
Objection! The prosecutor is clearly hostile to nerds. Everyone has to artistically express themselves, right? Are you condemning her to never sharing her passion for animation? Sparkle, sparkle?
Sustained. I will give her a chance, for that is the sexy way. Shabba-da-doo. Very well, defendant animation critic. I ask you, will you be invisible, or will you review anime?
I will review anime?
YouTube channel approved!
Hello everybody! My name is Carrie, I am your animation critic, and now that I've been approved by the YouTube court, whatever that was, this is my first official video. This week, the winter 2016 anime season is kicking off, which means new shows to watch. Lots and lots and lots of new shows to watch. Before that though, I'd like to talk about the anime season that inspired me to do this in the first place, winter 2015. The anime season that gave us an invincible alien octopus teacher, lesbian bears eating people, and provocatively licking a flower. I don't know, just go with it. So much delicious food porn that I wanted to jump through my TV and nom all over it. Plus, anime girls that were given the powers of witches, dragons, World War II era battleships, swords, literally Satan, plus whatever the hell these things are. I don't know. One thing is for sure, this was definitely an interesting season. So, without further ado, before I get working on the current anime season, this is my top 17 anime shows of the winter 2015 anime season. Except this time we're just going to do the bottom 7, we'll move on to the top 10 next time. Let's roll! June 7. Asuka. So at the very bottom of this list we have this season's cliched, horribly written ecchi series, because no anime season would be complete without one, right? On the surface level, Asuka is about a girl who's trying to exterminate demons, or Yoma, by shooting them with her magic arrows. It's her family legacy to do so. One day, she saves a boy at her school from being killed by one of these demons, he reluctantly joins her, and a story of comedic creature hunting begins. But in terms of actual execution, this show is every bad ecchi cliche in the book. And we all know what that means. Boobs, butts, embarrassing sexual situations, hilarity. Ugh. You know what? To show why I hated this show so much, let's just play a game. I call it Count the Horrible Ecchi Cliches. Let's play. Okay, 15 seconds into the first episode and we already have random nudity for no reason. 15 seconds! Okay, calm down, we can do this. Main character's best friend is a female objectifying skeeve ball. Embarrassing upskirt pose. Double points for calling the main character a pervert. Panties. Crotch fall because anime physics. Tissue paper clothing. Boob fall because more anime physics. Apparently female sexual parts have their own gravitational pull. It was the girl's first time. More panties. Even more panties. And guess what? Even more panties. Ugh, am I missing something here? Is looking at the exact same set of panties over and over really that mesmerizing? Oh yeah, and I forgot the worst cliche of all. The boy in this show is the only one who's not affected by her magic because he's special for some reason, which makes her fascinated by him. Yeah, never seen that cliche before. Totally not trying to make our male viewers feel special and feel more romantically bound to their hypothetical little anime waifu here. I could maybe forgive these cliches, maybe, if the show had better animation or better writing, but it doesn't. The entire plot introduction is explained with exposition, the story goes nowhere, and in terms of animation, just watch this. Someone is attacked by a Yoma and looks dead. And this is the reaction of one of her friends.
Oh no.
That's about how much effort was put into this show.
So, with a bad story, bad characters, ridden with horrible cliches, and basically being nothing but a vessel for self-insertion fan service fantasies, Asuka gets my lowest possible rating and is an easy pick for the number 17 spot as the worst anime show of the winter 2015 season. If you want to watch it, it's streaming on Crunchyroll, but seriously, don't. Jurokuban. Sengoku Musou, also known as Samurai Warriors. So, did you ever play one of those hack and slash video games? You know, the kind where you just button mash and just plow through hundreds of bad guys like it's nothing? Well, guess what? Now they made an anime series out of one of them. And it really sucks.
Set in the Warring States era of Japanese history, Samurai Warriors follows the story of brothers Yukimura and Nobuyuki Sanada, two elite samurai who helped to unify Japan under the banner of warlord Toyotomi Hideyoshi. But when Hideyoshi unexpectedly dies, the Sanada brothers are driven apart by a dispute over whether Hideyoshi's son can be an effective ruler or not, bringing the two to a fateful battle. On the surface, this sounds like a good premise, but man, the execution is bad. You know that entire plot synopsis I just gave you? Well, guess what? It's entirely explained with narration.
I wish I was joking.
And you know all those characters I just mentioned? They're introduced with title cards. All 22 of them.
How the hell am I supposed to remember all this shit? Show, don't tell. God.
Anyway, the show really isn't about the plot or about the characters. It is adapted from a hack and slash video game, which means it is mainly about the action. And one of the inherent problems with adapting a video game into an anime is that you lose the player control. In a video game, you're the one in charge, so you get to feel the tension and the drama of being in the middle of a big battle. In an anime, though, you're just watching it happen to someone else. So unless they really make you feel the main character's tension, it's not going to connect. And, well, judge for yourself.
Did you feel for even a fraction of a second that he was in any real danger?
And now for contrast, let's take a look at this medieval battle from Maria the Virgin Witch. People are in genuine peril. Every single sword and arrow feels like it might kill you. And because of that, you feel like you're there. And now let's go back and watch Yukimura breaking down a castle with his wind blast, dodging hundreds of bullets, deflecting swords with no effort, and never so much as getting a scratch on him. Like, do you even need this whole badly CGI'd army? This one guy takes down the entire castle by himself. What's the point? The only upside to the action is that it looks kind of cool, but on an emotional level, it really makes you feel nothing. And that's this show in a nutshell. It makes you feel nothing. It does try to show the characters having big emotional drama, and tries to give you this big epic plot with epic battles, but it's executed so badly that the emotions just ring hollow. Sengoku Musou is available for streaming on Crunchyroll, and while I don't personally recommend it, it's not one of the worst things I've seen, so it only gets an unfavorable rating in the number 16 spot on this list.
Jugoban. The winter 2015 anime season gave us not one, not two, but 3 Battle Academy harem shows. Wonderful.
The basic plot of all of these shows is pretty much the same. There's some sort of bland, self-inserty, every guy main character, he has some sort of special powers, and he goes to an academy to learn to use them. And usually, along the way, he gets involved with a female love interest of some sort.
Actually, let me rephrase that more accurately.
Usually, there's a walking set of boobs of some sort who's exploited for pointless fan service so often that you seriously want to slap the director and the writers for being such objectifying assholes.
There! That's more like it!
That's what our fans want.
I hate all of these shows. I really do.
And while the other two, Seiken Tsukai no World Break and Unlimited Fafnir, are both plenty bad in their own way, my number 15 pick, Absolute Duo, is by far the worst of the 3. Seiken Tsukai no World Break at least has really cool magical powers and good animation. So even though, yes, it's a bad self-insertion fantasy, at least it makes you actually want to self-insert. And Unlimited Fafnir at least tries to have a plot that makes sense. You actually understand what's going on and why it's important. And then you have Absolute Duo, a show with shitty animation, lame powers, a conflict that makes no sense, a plot that goes nowhere, plus your typical harem, save the cute, helpless moe girls bullshit. Even after 12 episodes of plot, I was still asking, wait, why are they at this academy again? What are they fighting? Whatever, that doesn't matter. Let's give you more fan service!
Let's be honest, this is the purpose of the show right here.
Julie. The show frames her like she is a goddess. Everyone gasps, wow, so stunning, when she walks into class. Plus she's some sort of amazing, ungodly good fighter. So yeah, you can probably see where this is going. This is an ideal girlfriend fantasy. The entire show is about Toru being forced to be her partner, them bonding together, and for some reason Julie being completely oblivious to the gender difference, so a bunch of this shit happens. Plot be damned, we're going to show you lots of scenes of this perfect girlfriend being awesome and deifying her beauty, and of course being oblivious to all the sexual things she's doing so that all of our viewers can spank off to it without feeling like a perv. And yeah, most of the positive reviews of this show came from guys who like Julie. Big surprise, I know. And there's pretty much nothing else here for anybody who doesn't fit in that demographic, so to me this was just a very boring, badly produced self-insertion fan service fantasy. Absolute Duo gets an unfavorable rating and the number 15 spot on my list. If you want to watch it, it is streaming over on Funimation. Before I move on to this next entry, I would like to say something quickly about the way that I rate anime. I am much more interested in good animation, good writing, good characters, and whether I'm enjoying the show on a minute-to-minute basis, more so than the conclusion that it's ultimately building up to. And on the basis of that minute-to-minute enjoyment, no show this year pissed me off more than my number 14 entry, The Testament of Sister New Devil. The first 12 minutes of this show had me screaming at my TV. Be forewarned, I'm going to get really pissed off in this review, so let's recap. The very first scene of this show is of our main character, Basara, walking in on his new stepsister in the bathroom. She tries to scream, and he pins her down with his hand over her mouth because it's just a big misunderstanding. And yet very clearly the audience watching this is supposed to be getting off on it, so ew. Flash forward to the next day. Basara wakes up because his stepsister is sitting on top of him, grinding her vajayjay all over his pelvis. Why, you might ask? I don't even have to make a commentary on that. The show just outright told you that it's only doing this because it thinks that's what its male audience wants. Which, again, let's go back to this scene. Ew! No! But now we get to the part that really pissed me off. Wait, what? Now she's getting embarrassed? After grinding her freaking lady bits all over him and moaning? Now she's freaking out about him being a pervert and angrily storming out just because he, of course, by some fucking stupid law of anime physics, boob falls on her? Bull fucking shit. I'm sorry. No! You cannot have a character deliberately grinding her lady bits on someone, moaning, and then have her embarrassed because he is a pervert. No! This is just the worst kind of double standard laden bullshit that a guy somehow wants a girl who is hypersexual but innocent, experienced but virginal, forceful but weak. No! And what makes it even worse is that this girl is the freaking devil! As in Satan! Mephisto! I'm going to tempt humanity to sin! Why is she worried about looking virginal? Ugh! But wait! It gets even worse! In the very next scene, her younger sister, so young that she barely even has nipple buds, starts acting out scenes from an ecchi visual novel and yet again breaks the fourth wall to explain that she's doing it because teenage boys have urges. Excuse me a second.
Okay, so if you're still watching the show after this point, which, trust me, took a lot of effort on my part, eventually it does develop a plot. Because Mio here is a devil, she draws low-level demons to herself. Demons which she can't protect herself from because reasons, so Basara takes it upon himself to keep her safe. Also, her succubus casts a curse on her that makes her orgasm every time she thinks a negative thought about him, so gee, guess which one the rest of the show focuses on more? So yeah, this is mostly just a fan service show. One that is so explicit that it would honestly be hentai if there weren't these conveniently placed censor bars everywhere. And while that by itself doesn't make it a bad show, it really rubs me the wrong way that so much of this fan service is, well, rapey, pedophile-y, reinforcing bullshit double standards of female sexuality-y. I can't. I just can't. The only reason that the show isn't lower on the list is because it actually does have decent battle animation, and it does at least attempt to have a plot, even if that plot ultimately goes nowhere and is constantly shoved aside for a more fan service that skeeves me out. The Testament of Sister New Devil is available for streaming on Crunchyroll. Ju Sanban. Okay, now that bit of horribleness is out of the way, it's time for Battle Academy Harem Show number 2, Seiken Tsukai no World Break, or in English, World Break Aria of Curse for a Holy... You know what, I hate the English title, let's just move on. Yet again, the plot of this show is basically exactly the same as the other two Battle Academy shows. Bland every guy main character has special powers, goes to a school to learn to use them, walking set of boobs exploited for fan service love interests, except in this case just like 10 of them, yada yada yada, you get the idea. Premise isn't what matters in these shows, it's all about execution. And to World Break's favor, it has way better animation than the other Battle Academy shows. The texture and detail in these battles is drop-dead gorgeous. Not to its favor though, this means that this show pissed me off way more than the other two because of the sheer amount of wasted potential. So now, I'm going to take a moment to show you what it felt like for me to watch this show. Here we go, another terrible Battle Academy harem show. How bad's this one going to be?
I do not forgive, and I don't forget! Everyone, thank you all!
That was amazing! Look at those awesome powers in the animation, and I can't wait to see what they're gonna do with this.
What are you doing? Stop! Dude!
Okay, that's really funny. Where are real main characters? Crap.
Don't touch me!
I hope you're proud of yourself, you imbecile! Thanks to your damned curse, they have to redraw the entire map of Russia!
No show this year raised my expectations so high only to shit all over them. The talent is there to pull off a big epic fantasy, and the basic framework of a good plot is there. And yet instead we get boobies, 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 girls fighting over the main character boobies, annoying little sister constantly screeching, "Oni-chan!" at the top of her lungs. God, I hate that bitch. Boobies, boobies, bikinis, boobies. And in terms of character progression, it kind of feels uncomfortably like the writers are giving the main character a hand job. Like, this show just goes on and on about how he's so amazing. And he instantly rises up through the ranks to the godlike S-class of this academy after only one fight, with no effort shown whatsoever, mind you. Plus he has a harem of busty fangirls all fighting for his affection, even though he has about as much personality as a can of white paint. Male power fantasy, go figure. So, for raising my expectations up so high only to dash them in every way imaginable, Seiken Tsukai no World Break gets an unfavorable rating and the number 13 spot on this list. 12番 We
We made it! We're finally at the last Battle Academy harem show of the year! And finally we have one that's actually, well, okay, not exactly good, but at least tolerable. Unlimited Fafnir. In this show, the world is thrown into chaos when mysterious rampaging monsters called dragons appear. And at the same time as those dragons, girls with mysterious powers called I'm not joking, that's seriously what they're called, appear also. These girls are the only ones who have the power to fight the dragons, because they have the ability to manipulate dark matter and convert it into almost anything. Weapons, explosions, battle armor, whatever other generic anime powers the writers decided to rip off from better shows. You get the idea. This story follows a guy named Yu, who for some reason is the only male ever born with these powers. And so he becomes a student at the previously all-girls academy, Midgar, that trains D how to use their powers. So with a plot setup like that, you can probably imagine that the show could have gone one of two ways. Either they can play up the birth destiny angle and give us this big epic plot where the dragons are coming, which means hurting people, tragedy, drama, actual consequences. Or we could choose to play up the whole only guy in an all-girls school angle and give us embarrassment, fan service, and typical harem bullshit. Surprisingly, though, it actually goes both routes. Yes, there's plenty of stupid fan service and typical harem romance, but they actually did take the plot seriously. The first conflict in the show happens when Yu's pseudo-girlfriend Iris becomes the target of the next dragon, and for 2 episodes after that, it really plays up the feeling of fear and helplessness. Like, there was some genuine pathos in this show, which is way more than I can say of the other 2. But then, of course, none of the girls can lay a scratch on the monster, but Yu says, step aside and let the man handle it, and defeats it single-handedly with almost no effort because obviously a rookie is that powerful. And then in the next episode, it completely goes to hell when this obnoxious kid character latches onto him and insists that she's his wife, and yeah. By that point, it's just evolved into a typical protect the helpless girl's power fantasy, and it never recovers. To this show's credit, though, it tries. It does at least try to make you feel something and try to want to protect these girls. And sometimes it even almost succeeds. I was kind of enjoying it when it wasn't being stupid. And I'm not gonna lie, even though the powers in the show are kind of cliche, I do think they're really cool. You feel the sheer amount of possibilities. It's just that, well, it doesn't really deliver on those possibilities. You don't ever get something more meaty that you can dig your philosophical teeth into. Because, again, mostly the point here is just to engage your protective moe instincts. But it wasn't horrible, just a little bit derivative and mediocre. We're finally out of the unfavorable ratings and into the neutrals. Yay, I can finally stop ranting. Thank God, I didn't know if my voice could handle anymore. Unlimited Fafnir is available for streaming on Crunchyroll. Ju Ichiban. Okay, last show on the worst list, and now that we're finally done with the shows that are both badly executed and unoriginal, now I can finally move on to the shows that are simply badly executed. And while the last show on this list may have some serious problems with tonal mismatch and just general what the fuckery, you definitely can't say it's unoriginal. Yatterman Night. So first, the good parts. I guarantee you have never seen a show quite like this before. Basically, to get an idea of what this show is like, imagine if Team Rocket from Pokemon was made into the protagonist of a show, and the show is about them fighting against the corrupt system of the Pokemon world and all of its overbearing Officer Jennies that keep them in poverty, using cartoony giant mech robots and Looney Tunes-style bombs to do that fighting, and yet at the same time it tries to take that plot completely seriously and paint it as an epic tragedy. Like I said, you definitely can't fault this show for being unoriginal. I'm not really sure what kind of originality we're talking about here when the main characters are trying to get revenge using a giant forehead-flicking robot? What? Whatever, I don't know. The point is I'd never seen it before. The plot starts when a young girl named Leopard, who's one of those obnoxious kid characters that screams half of her lines instead of just talking like a normal person, but that's not the point here, sits with her mother, hearing utopian bedtime stories about the heroic Yattermen. One day, though, her mother gets sick. Very sick. So Leopard sets out to ask for help from the Yatter Kingdom, only to be attacked, rejected, and her mother dies because they refuse to help. So Leopard, along with her friends Volkaze and Elephantis, set out to wreak their horrible vengeance against the corrupt Yattermen who let her mother die without mercy. Again, using giant bomb blasts and forehead-flicking machines. The show could have been good, but as you probably figured out from the plot summary, there is a big problem with tonal mismatch here. Like, how am I supposed to take the poverty and the death and the suffering seriously when we have giant robots appearing out of nowhere and all these cartoony explosions bouncing everyone all over the place? This kind of stuff is supposed to end with
Team Rocket's blasting off again!
Tune in next week for more wacky adventures. Not people literally dying and starving. And when it comes to that tragedy, the writing does leave a lot to be desired. There's a lot of exposition in this show and a lot of kind of telling you what you're supposed to be feeling rather than actually using the acting and the animation to make you actually feel it. Nonetheless, this show still gets points for being entertaining, so I can forgive the bad things and give it a moderate rating for trying. It just needed a little bit better writing and execution to make it all work. Yatterman Night is available for streaming on Funimation. And with that, those are my picks for the top 7 worst anime shows of the winter 2015 season. Join me again next time when we will count down the top 10 best. Bye!